Yesterday we did some numericals, so let's proceed to the next topic. So before actually telling you the topic, let's see how we go into that topic and for what reason. So we mainly studied Maxwell's equations here, right? So from Maxwell's equations, and before that what we got, E vector and H vector. Further, what we proved, that E vector is always perpendicular to H vector. This is H, right? So we saw there is interdependence of electric and magnetic fields, and they are always perpendicular to each other. Then we proved that Maxwell's equations indirectly tell us that the fields exist in the form of waves, and since E and H are always together, they are called as EM waves, so electromagnetic waves, and that's where our name of this course has come, electromagnetic engineering. So we have EM waves. Then we further prove that they are traveling, so they are traveling at the speed of light if the medium is free space. This is what we have proved so far. So we stopped till this point and then we started numericals, right? So the next obvious question is, what if the waves are traveling? So obviously what is happening, we have some communication system finally connected to antenna, right? And we are giving a source, we have a AC source here, right? It means we are giving power. So somehow that power is going through it, right? So how is that power going? In what form it is going? That we don't know. So that we try to find in this topic, right? So this topic is basically to find about the power of the traveling wave. So it is called as Poynting theorem. So why it is called as Poynting theorem, that will come to know at the end of the lecture. So it is Poynting theorem. Okay. So we have to basically, what we have to do again, we have to do one derivation to derive the expression for power, in short, right? So we'll again fall back to what, as I told, for almost all the derivations will fall back to what, Maxwell's equations. So we'll consider two laws here. First is Faraday's law. So you will write Faraday's law for point form is given as, how is it given as, del cross E vector equal to minus dabba by dabba t B vector, right? And what we know, B is mu h, so therefore del cross E vector equal to minus mu dabba by dabba t h vector. Mu is a scalar and not dependent on time, so I can take it outside. Similarly, we have modified form of Ampere's law given as, we will write it neatly. So what is it, del cross h vector equal to j vector plus dabba by dabba t d vector, right? So what is j vector, we saw yesterday, it is sigma E vector, form of Ohm's law, plus epsilon dabba by dabba t E vector. So this is the actual Ohm's law, I can say. You get V equal to IR from this equation, you can prove it. So I'll not go into that now. So these two equations we have. So let's say this is equation 1, this is equation 2. So this is from what, Faraday's law, this is from modified Ampere's law. So next we consider a mathematical identity. So considering the identity, what is it? It is del dot A vector cross C vector equal to, so it is a standard identity. So it is given as C dot del cross A vector minus E dot del cross C vector. Now this is very important. I have given dots here. Okay, means what? This is a vector and this is also a vector. This is a curl operation, right? So this is obviously a vector. Cross product always gives a vector, right? But this is a dot product, so this will give a scalar. This is also a dot product, so this will give a scalar. Means this should also be a scalar. So this is vector, this is vector. Dot product gives a scalar, right? So let's say, let A vector equal to E vector and C vector equal to H vector. So therefore del dot E cross H vector equal to, so it is what, C is H, so H dot del cross E vector minus A is E vector, so E dot del cross C is H vector, right? So we have this as equation 1 and equation 2, right? So let's substitute that. So therefore del dot E cross H vector equal to H vector dot del cross E. What is del cross E? Minus mu dabba by dabba t H vector, right? So into minus mu dabba by dabba t H vector minus E vector into del cross H vector. What is it? Sigma E vector plus epsilon dabba by dabba t E vector, right? So minus E vector into dot of sigma E vector plus epsilon dabba by dabba t E vector. Yes, I am correct, right? So let's simplify this. Therefore, del dot E cross H vector equal to, so what will this be? Minus mu H vector dabba by dabba t H vector. So I'll take simplify this, minus sigma E vector dot E vector will give me what? A scalar, right? So it will be magnitude of E square, right? So, and this is minus epsilon E vector dabba by dabba t E vector, okay? And again, this is vector, this will be a vector, so this is dot, so I forgot that, okay? So now let's consider one more identity. You have to remember two identities for this, you don't have an option. So dabba by dabba t A vector dot C vector, it is given as A vector dot dabba by dabba t C vector plus C vector dot dabba by dabba t A vector. So in our case, what we are getting? H dot H means A and C are same, right? So let's say A and C are equal. Therefore, dabba by dabba t A vector dot A vector equal to H vector dot dabba by dabba t H vector. Sorry, I am taking A, right? So this will be, and it will be 2 times. So 2 times A vector dot dabba by dabba t A vector, right? So what is therefore A vector dot dabba by dabba t A vector? By that, because I want H dot dabba by dabba t H vector and E vector dot dabba by dabba t E vector, right? So that's why I'm finding this term. So therefore A vector dot dabba by dabba t A vector equal to 1 by 2 dabba by dabba t magnitude of A vector square, right? So again, this is standard mathematical identity. So you have to remember this. You don't have an option. So therefore, what is del dot E vector cross H vector? We have it here, minus mu H vector dot dabba by dabba t H vector, means A is H vector, right? So equal to minus mu. So it is into half. So I'll write minus mu by 2. It is minus dabba by dabba t magnitude of H vector square, right? And minus epsilon, and again that identity. So again it is half. So minus epsilon by 2 dabba by dabba t magnitude of E vector square. Am I correct? Right? And don't forget this minus sigma magnitude of E square, minus sigma magnitude of E vector square, right? So now what we do is integrate both sides. So integrating both sides with respect to volume. So what will we get? So I'll keep it here for reference. It is visible. Yes, right? So what will we get? So we are integrating with respect to volume. So therefore closed volume integral of del dot E vector cross H vector dv, right, equal to volume integral of this. So with respect to volume dv, mu by 2 is constant, right? So what we can write? Minus mu by 2 closed. See, I am writing here v. That's why I am not showing 3 integrals. If you are not writing v, you have to show 3 integrals. right? So that is the difference. So I have written V, so I am not showing you three integrals. Initial volume integral of, so actually you can take dabba by dabba t also. So I'll write it again. So therefore closed volume integral of del dot E vector cross H vector dv equal to, so this is minus, I'll take dabba by dabba t outside, but I'll keep minus mu by 2 inside for some reason. We'll come to know why. Minus mu integral mu by 2 magnitude of h square dv. Similarly for each this you will have minus dabba by dabba t volume integral of epsilon by 2 magnitude of E square dv, and finally this term minus volume integral of sigma magnitude of E square dv, right? So just go through this. What I have done, I have just taken integral on both sides with respect to volume. I hope you have understood. So just assimilate this, what is written. Right. So let's see what each and every term means here. Okay. So as I said, don't just see them as equations, see them as concepts. Then only you will understand this course. This should be your approach not only for this course but for each and every course. Okay. So let's see from the RHS first. Okay. So what is this term under inside the integral mu by 2 h square? So it resembles what in, again will fall back to BEE or network theory or circuit theory, whichever was your subject name. So what it resembles like? It resembles something like this is a constant mu by 2, right? Right, and this is a field, right? So it will be changing with respect to time, right? That's why you have dabba by dabba t. So this is changing. So this is somewhat like what v square by r, where r is constant, right? So this indicates what? Power, right? Or in other words, I can say energy, right? Why I'm calling it energy? Because it is a magnetic thing. So what we will call it as magnetic energy for this. Similarly, this is also E square into epsilon by 2. Similarly, like V square by R. So what is this called as? It will be then electric energy, right? So then what is this? So this introduces a term sigma. So sigma is associated with what? Conductivity. So what does this indicate? It might be the losses. So that is what we have derived from this equation, right? So again, this is what? Magnetic energy, but it is around the volume. So it is what? Magnetic energy stored in the volume. Similarly, this will be stored in the volume, right? And this will be losses, strictly speaking, ohmic power losses, right? So now let's simplify it further. So I'll again come back to this. So now this is what? A volume integral, right? I want to convert it to surface integral. Okay. So what will this be? Black pen. So applying divergence theorem on LHS. So therefore closed volume integral of del dot E vector cross H vector dv. So I am applying volume, divergence theorem. So what will it become? Closed surface integral of E vector cross H vector dot ds vector, right? So this is our basic divergence theorem, right? So what is our equation again? So therefore closed surface integral of E vector cross H vector dot ds vector equal to, minus dabba by dabba t volume integral of mu by 2 magnitude of h square dv minus dabba by dabba t volume integral of epsilon by 2 magnitude of e square dv minus volume is here volume integral of sigma magnitude of e square dv, right? So this is our equation, right? So let's see this in detail now. I just gave you an idea in a few minutes ago, so let's see what this actually tells us. Okay. So I'll keep it here for reference again. So what is the first thing we understand from this? So let's see the first term on RHS. Let's start again from RHS side, because what is RHS, if you know, then only we can say what does the quantity on LHS side mean. That's why we are starting from RHS. So the first term on RHS, what does it represent? As I said, represents magnetic energy stored in the volume V, right? What does the second term represent? Whereas the second term represents electric energy stored again in the volume, right? So what do they together represent, right? So there are two forms of energy, right? Electric energy and magnetic energy. So hence these two terms represent or together represent the rate of, why we say the rate of, can you think? And I'm also adding decrease of, can you think why? Rate of decrease of total energy stored in volume V. So why rate of decrease of, rate of, why rate indicates time, so dabba by dabba t, that's why rate of decrease of. And why decrease? Because it is negative, so it is decreasing with respect to time. So as time passes, it is decreasing, right? So let's see the next point. So what is remaining third term on RHS? So the third term on RHS, and we saw what is gives or represents the ohmic power losses in the volume V, right? So this is what total energy or rate of decrease of total energy, and these are the ohmic power losses, right? So what do they together represent? So third point, therefore the terms on RHS. So again you see this is negative. Therefore the terms on RHS represent what? The total energy decrease with respect to time in the volume V, right? So this is what total energy decrease in the volume with respect to time, right? Now what does the law of conservation of energy tell us regarding this, right? Can you think? So the law of conservation of energy tells us that what is it? Rate of decrease of energy, means power is decreasing, right? So tells us that this, we can call it as a power loss. Power loss should be energy leaving the volume, right? That is our basic law of conservation of energy, right? So this is energy leaving the volume, right? So what should the term on left hand side represent? So it is also power leaving the volume, right? So what we see, therefore the term on LHS represents what? Power coming out of the volume V, right? Means which term? Now I've written surface integral. It was what actually? Volume integral. So this represents what? Power coming out of the volume, right? But if I convert it to surface, it is what? E vector cross H vector, right? So what is the power then? Therefore net, it is what? Power coming out of the volume. So this indicates what? For surface it is power coming out of the surface. This is similar to closed surface integral of d vector dot ds vector equal to q enclosed. This is what? Gauss form of Gauss law, sorry, integral form of Gauss law, right? Close, how we read this? The total amount of electric flux density coming out of the surface, right? So what does this indicate then? Total amount of power coming out of the surface. So therefore net power outflow is what? Net power outflow is what? Closed surface integral of E vector cross H vector dot ds vector. What does this indicate? This is total amount of power coming out of the volume. Means what? This is the power P vector, in the same way that this is total amount of electric flux density. So this is electric flux density. This is total amount of power coming out of the surface. So this is power. So we say, therefore that means we have found the power expression that which we wanted. So therefore P vector is E vector cross H vector, right? And what is this P vector? Where P vector is called as Poynting vector. And what it gives power density at any point on the surface, right? So that is what this integral represents, right? And the theorem, this theorem is called as Poynting vector. So how is it defined? The surface integral of P vector over a closed surface, the surface integral of P vector over a closed surface is equal to what? Nothing but the total power leaving the closed surface. So this is nothing but Poynting theorem. Right? So what do we understand from this conceptually? What we got? P vector is E vector cross H vector. What do we know about E vector and H vector relation? They are always perpendicular. So let's say this sketch one is pointing towards you. Let's say this is x-axis and let's say this is y-axis. Both are perpendicular. Let's say this is coming towards you is E vector. So this should be H vector, right? And what we know, it is a cross product. What we know from our cross product first lecture of the course, that A cross B will always give the answer which is perpendicular to A cross B. So A cross B perpendicular to this is either this or this. So let's take this. Means what? E cross H vector is what? P vector. Means for this E cross H vector is what? This vector. So this is my P vector. So it is perpendicular to this plane. Means power always travels perpendicular to the plane of E vector and H vector. That is what it is saying. Means Diagrammatically, what is happening? This is my z vector where the power is traveling about. So this is x, this is y. So let's say electric field is oriented along x direction. So it will be like this. So imagine in 3D, right? So this is my y direction. So electric field should be perpendicular to the magnetic field, right? So electric field is oriented along x direction, right? Sorry, this is wrong. Why this is wrong, I'll tell you. It is varying in what? It is changing along x, right? What we have, it is E of z x cap. So E of x cap, we proved in that lecture that it is not possible. So I have drawn it wrong. That is the reason this is wrong. So let me draw it again. So this is my z, this is my x, this is my y. So electric field is oriented in x, right? And it is varying in z. So it is like this. Sorry, these arrows are like this, right? So electric field is like this. How is the magnetic field perpendicular to this, right? So remember, this is coming out towards you, even though it looks like this. How is the magnetic field perpendicular to this? So it will be like this. So I want you to imagine in 3D. So this is my E vector, this is my H vector, right? And we saw that how they travel perpendicular to the plane, right? So this is my E vector, this is my H vector. E is oriented along x, this is my E vector, sorry. The same E vector with this color. So H vector here, how they are traveling along Z. That is what is proved by Poynting theorem, okay?